Hey everybody, Jason Sherman here. In today's episode of Zero to CEO, I speak to Vedic meditation expert Michael Miller. Welcome to the show.
Thanks very much, Jason. I'm pleased to be here.
And we're going to talk about how Vedic meditation drives success and innovation. Exciting because meditation and innovation success don't usually go hand in hand. They usually go with relaxation and stress relief and, mind-body connections. Tell me a little bit how it drives success and innovation. I don't usually do that in the beginning. I like to but I'm ripping the Band-Aid off this time.
Sure. Let's leap right in. You are never at your best when you're tired and stressed. You don't think clearly. You don't behave well with others. You don't act in a strategic manner. You don't have creative ideas. And this is what Vedic meditation does, is it de-excites the mind. It rests the body very, very deeply. In just a few minutes, you're resting 5 times more deeply than sleep. You do that for 20 minutes. During that 20 minutes, your brain shows a signature of bihemispheric coherence. The prefrontal cortex gets particularly activated. You are creating the brain signature of someone who's having creative insight. And how you use the brain changes the brain. That starts to become your normal mode of functioning.
All right,
and so
we're jumping ahead a bit here. So
good. Go for it.
I want to give some, leave some tidbits for people as we continue. I'm curious about a couple things because I do meditation. I've never heard of Vedic. I might have maybe heard of it somewhere, but I just do regular meditation where I just sit with very calming music, close my eyes, breathe in 4 seconds, breathe out 4 seconds. And I do that for like 5 to 10 minutes, a couple times a day, just to, like you said, clear my mind, defocus what I was working on, relax a bit, and try to calm down because our days are full of stress. So let's talk about how you first discovered this particular kind of meditation and like what drew you to it, because that's kind of interesting to me because I've heard about meditation my whole life, whether it was transcendental meditation or just open up an app and breathe for 5 minutes. Why Vedic? What drew you?
So I maybe a little similar to you. I tried a lot of things over the years. I first encountered meditation when I was at university. I had a professor who'd meditated a lot in the 70s. He was an old hippie. He thought it was brilliant. And, he gave us some time actually in class, did not really give us any instruction, said maybe you want to stare at something, help control your mind. I sat down cross-legged on the floor because that seemed like what meditators do. And I pulled a tennis ball out of my bag. Why? I don't know. Just had this idea. I'll stare at this. I'll stared furiously at that ball for what felt like the longest 10 minutes of my university career.
Oh, sure.
The mind was all over the place, but I could tell there was something to it. I felt a little quietening down. And so I went on a search. I did a lot of yoga and breathing exercises and, martial arts and body work and all kinds of things, trying to get a glimpse in some reliable way of that more settled state. And I didn't really find it. Nothing clicked or stuck.
Right.
I had then, I'd gone on to grad school and I'd started a business career and the pressure was ramping up. I had ended up in Los Angeles in a corporate publishing role and it was full on, the classic 50, 60-hour weeks.
Right. Super stressful and
super full on.
Crazy amount of work and just notes, like you just feel like you're always putting out fires possibly. That's how a lot of people feel in their jobs from what I'm hearing from my friends. And I always tell them, go for a walk, listen to a podcast, meditate, exercise. So again, I'm really curious, why Vedic? Like, what's the difference between it and like what I do, which is again the 4 in, 4 out, 5 minute with the music a couple times a day.
This is a strategic practice. So if I were to train for a marathon, I would run every day regularly. And when the day of the race came, I would be in shape and I'd be ready. I wouldn't 30 minutes before the race take a little spin around the park to get myself in shape. And in the same way, what we do is we meditate 20 minutes twice a day, in the morning before breakfast and then kind of late afternoon, early evening. When I'm making that a strategic process, then when challenges and demands come, you find that you're in shape. So instead of getting a call from my boss and she says, get in here right now, and I say, just give me 10 minutes, I got to breathe for a minute. It's not very practical, actually.
Right.
Because I meditated in that morning, I'm able to respond to that demand in a more efficient and more effective way. And if I do get stressed, and of course, meditators can still get stressed, but I'm not going to stay stressed because I'm going to meditate that evening and clear out that impression and be able to let go and move on in a different way.
You
So
know,
for me, it was practical. It fit into my life in a reasonable way. I didn't have to be in a particular environment that was, conducive to relaxation. I did it a lot in my car. You can't be driving.
well,
You got to
yeah,
close
because
your
your
eyes.
eyes are closed. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Officer, I was meditating. Oh, well, then we're going to give you a warning this time.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
but you mentioned your boss and, getting into the office. And one of the things I noticed meditation helped me in particular with was when I talk to people, not my boss, and I work for myself, but just people, family, friends, parents, anyone who they kind of get under your skin a little bit. And what I noticed about meditation is that it has helped me, instead of lashing out or responding in an irate way or frustrating, kind of stressful, you just get upset and you just kind of feel bad about what you said later. It allows me to stop, breathe, think about what it is they're asking me, and then calmly answer them in the way that they really expect you to answer versus oh, you're asking me this question again for the 50th time. Is that part of where meditation helps people? And if so, how can that help people in the business world as well?
If you are right up to the brim with stress, pressure, irritation, frustration, then it just takes one more thing for that to bubble over. I remember being in New York and I was waiting to cross the street and we all stepped out, a group of people, and a cab turned and stopped right in front of or right blocking the pedestrian walkway. The guy next to me went up and started beating on the hood of the car,
Oh,
screaming at the driver. Now, what did life ask this person?
mm,
Could you walk in a curve instead of walking straight? That's all that was asked. But they were so pressurized and
hmm
so overloaded that it just came dumping out. And it
yeah,
was it was not graceful. And probably they did not feel good about themselves when they went home.
right.
In the same way, to hopefully a lesser degree, this can happen to any of us. You get cut off in traffic one day, it doesn't bother you. The next day, because the level that you're vibrating at, one mistake on the road and you completely explode. And you can't have that happen in the workplace and be an effective leader. You can be a leader, but you won't be well liked. And it's really going to limit your success over time because working with people in an inspiring way is going to be a completely different experience. If I reduce that internal level of stress, it gives you more space between input and response. And this is what you're talking about, this moment to just, okay, I heard that. Fine. I'm going to let that process. And now I'm going to respond in a more measured and, again, a more graceful way.
100%. And I want to go back to the tennis ball for a second because I like the way that you presented that. In the way that I learned meditation, it was that you, instead of holding a physical object, although you can, it's more about thinking about something that makes you happy, whether it's your pet or a loved one or like a sunshine on the beach. And you just focus on that one thing. And you don't stop the thoughts from running through your head like traffic in a car. Instead, you let those cars drive by and you just let them flow in and out of your head. I mean, is that kind of the general rule of thumb when it comes to meditation, is to just let everything flow through your head, but try to focus on that one mantra or that one object to kind of keep you focused?
There are really different techniques of meditation that are practiced in very different ways. So what you're talking about is a focused attention, concentration style with a little bit of visualization. I'm going to focus on something that has positive associations for me, and that will trend my mind toward a bit more happiness. And it will also train my mind to return in a focused way to what I want to keep my attention on. And if we look at the brainwave signature of someone who's practicing a technique like this, that portion of their brain that is about focused attention really lights up.
Mm-hmm.
and the aspect of their brain that is about happiness brightens up slightly. Interestingly, the prefrontal cortex gets quiet. And
Hmm.
this is the part of the brain that's in charge of higher reasoning and moral judgment and long-term planning. That executive functioning
Interesting.
part of the brain goes
Takes a
offline a
break.
little bit. What sorry?
It takes a break. It takes a
it
break.
it takes a break, but also it it shuts down a little bit because you're
Wow.
putting an emphasis on a certain other part of the brain.
Interesting.
What we see in Vedic meditation, the way in which we practice is you learn a mantra, a meaningless sound that
Mm-hmm.
is chosen for you by the teacher. You think it in a very easy, effortless way. So it's not focus, it's not concentration. You're repeating it very gently, silently inside the mind.
Mm-hmm.
It's fascinating to your mind. It's really charming. And so your mind moves toward it. Other thoughts start to quieten down.
Yeah.
And then the mantra itself gets more quiet and more subtle and it disappears. And for a moment, your mind is dropped into a state
Hmm.
of no mantra and no thought. And in that
Interesting.
state, your prefrontal cortex is lit up. You have this bihemispheric coherence, the right half of the brain, the left half of the brain speaking the same language. This is peak creativity moment, but
Hmm.
nothing is going on inside.
Right.
It's like the engine has been tuned up and it's just
Ready to
spinning
go.
cleanly.
Yeah.
And how you use the brain changes the brain. You do that twice a day in meditation, it starts to be the normal way of functioning. Neuroplasticity, you of course have heard of this. How you use the brain changes it.
It's funny, over the years I did a lot of research, of course, because I'm interested in like yoga meditation. I've been doing it probably for 20 years. And, I know that it's not the most, it's not the easiest thing to get started on because, and I'm going to ask you something about that in a second, but the mantra you mentioned, this is something that a teacher has to give you, but I've been using like, Om Mani Padme Om or any other
Mhm.
mantras that I've read online that mean something, the universe, whatnot. And is that okay to do, just to choose a mantra that, you can repeat in your head? I've been doing that as well. But also the second part thing I want to ask you is everybody always says, oh, I've always wanted to try meditation, but I just don't have time for it. But come on, they're scrolling on their phones for 2 to 3 hours a day, binging Netflix for 4 hours a night. And to me, I'm like, you don't have time for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes after binging and doom scrolling for 3 hours?
Hmm.
So, like, talk to me here, man.
I agree with you, of course. And I think 2, 3 hours of screen time. I mean, check your iPhone screen time app, and people are horrified by how much time that thing has been lit up. I think it's a question of, do I see an ROI? If I'm sitting down and kind of gritting my teeth and sweating bullets and not sure what I'm doing and struggling to control the mind or focus on something and I'm not sure what and how should I be feeling and what should be the outcome, it's really hard for me to justify doing that. It can
Mm-hmm.
feel actually more frustrating if I don't know what I'm doing. And if I'm going to spend 40 minutes a day meditating, I want to feel confident about that. I want it to feel good. And I want to see a return on the investment because I could, study French and take an AI course and call my family more often instead of doing this.
Yeah.
If I'm going to do this, I want to see that I'm getting something out of it. And that's where proper instruction makes such a difference. Any great skill that you want, you go to an expert.
Yeah.
Could I learn to play guitar by watching YouTube videos? Yes. I'm never going to be a great guitarist. I'm going to be able to sort of fiddle
You learn the
around
basics. Yeah.
a
You learn the
little bit.
basics.
And I think, yes, you can learn the basics by listening to some podcasts that are specific to meditation or downloading another app onto your phone. And it can give you a taste. It can be a little, a first, second rung on the ladder. I think your listeners are not first, second rung kind of people. We're looking for expertise and really being the very best at what you do. And that generally means getting some guidance.
Perfect. And speaking of which, where can they get that guidance?
Well, you can check out our website sites, which are londonmeditationcenter.com and newyorkmeditationcenter.com. If you do a quick search, we'll pop up on the socials, on Instagram, if you do London Meditation or New York Meditation, and reach out and get in touch. We do an online introductory talk, which is just 1 hour on Zoom, and it's actually fascinating, to go into some depth about the potential impact on your emotional state and your physical health and your brain functioning and the way you get on with people and your personal contribution to the world. The world doesn't need you in an angry, stressed, worked up state. The world needs you calm and clear and creative and happy and able to give. And that makes you a better leader. It makes you a better family member, makes you a better friend. It makes you feel better about your contribution. It's a short percentage of 100 years that we're on this earth. What are we giving to the people around us?
Love it, Michael. Everybody breathe in and breathe out, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.